Hello and welcome back. Tonight's journey takes us to a small, windswept island off the coast of Nova Scotia, Canada. There is no lost civilization here, no famous haunting, and no serial killer. There is only a hole in the ground. But this is no ordinary hole. It is a puzzle box, a masterpiece of ancient engineering, and a booby trap that has guarded its secret for over 2 centuries. It has consumed fortunes, baffled engineers, and claimed human lives. This is the story of the world's longest and most obsessive treasure hunt. This is the definitive deep dive into the Oak Island Money Pit. Our story begins in the summer of 1795. A teenager named Daniel McGinnis was wandering across Oak Island, a 140-acre privately owned island, when he noticed something strange. In a clearing, he saw a circular depression in the ground about 4 meters in diameter. What truly caught his eye was the ancient oak tree towering over it. A thick branch directly above the depression had been sawn off, and the stump showed signs of wear, as if a rope and tackle block had been used to lower something heavy into the ground. McGinnis's imagination ignited. This was the age of pirates. Tales of buried treasure were common folklore. He believed he had stumbled upon the hiding place of the infamous Captain Kidd. Excited, he returned the next day with 2 friends, John Smith and Anthony Vaughan. Armed with shovels, they began to dig. Just 2 feet down, they hit a layer of flagstones. This was clearly not a natural formation. Encouraged, they continued. At a depth of 10 feet, about 3 meters, their shovels struck something hard, a platform of solid oak logs laid across the entire width of the pit. They had never seen anything like it. They managed to pry the logs out and continued digging, convinced the treasure was just below. But at 20 feet, they hit another identical oak platform, and then again at 30 feet. It became clear that this was an incredibly complex, man-made structure. Exhausted and unable to continue with simple tools, they abandoned their dig. But the legend of the Money Pit had just been born. For nearly a decade, the secret of the pit remained with the 3 young men. Then, around 1803, they joined forces with a wealthy businessman named Simeon Linz to form the Onslow Company, the first formal treasure hunting syndicate on Oak Island. This time, they came prepared with proper equipment. They quickly dug past the 30-foot mark where the boys had left off and continued their descent. The pattern repeated with unnerving precision. At 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80 feet, they found more oak platforms. Between the platforms, they found layers of charcoal,
This was definitive proof that whoever built this structure had traveled great distances and had gone to incredible lengths. Then, at 90 feet, they made their most tantalizing discovery. They unearthed a large flat stone tablet, about 2 feet long and 1 foot wide, covered in a series of strange, cryptic symbols. According to later accounts, a local professor was able to translate the inscription. The message was a direct invitation and a promise. 40 feet below, £2 million lie buried. £2 million was an almost unimaginable fortune in the early 19th century. The treasure was real, and they were close. The company decided to halt the digging for the season. The following year, 1804, they returned, full of confidence. They dug past the 90-foot stone. At 98 feet, their iron probing rod hit something solid and unyielding, like a wooden chest. They were certain they had found it, but as one of the workers tried to pry it up with a crowbar, they felt it shift. Exhausted, they decided to call it a night and retrieve their prize in the morning. When they returned the next day, they were met with a devastating sight. The pit which had been dry the day before, was now filled with over 60 feet of seawater. They had triggered a booby trap. Frantically, they tried to bail the water out, but it was useless. The water level remained constant. They had not just dug a hole, they had sprung a lock. The builders of the money pit had not only buried a treasure, they had protected it with a work of diabolical genius. Subsequent investigations would reveal an elaborate system of flood tunnels constructed to draw water from the nearby Smith's Cove and channel it directly into the main shaft anytime a would-be treasure hunter got too close to the prize. To build such a system hundreds of feet long through unstable soil below the tide line was an engineering feat that would be challenging even with modern technology. How it was accomplished centuries ago remains one of the island's greatest mysteries. The Onslow Company was defeated, financially and spiritually broken by the island's ingenious defenses. But their failure only fueled the legend. For the next 150 years, a succession of treasure hunters and syndicates, now armed with the knowledge of the flood tunnels, would throw themselves at the Oak Island puzzle. Each one came with new technology, steam-powered pumps, heavy drilling equipment, professional miners, and each one was met with failure, disaster, and financial ruin. Shafts would collapse, tunnels would cave in, equipment would break. The island seemed to actively resist any attempt to unlock its secret. In 1861, the first life was claimed when a man was scalded to death by an exploding boiler pump. This death moved his entire family to Oak Island to dedicate his life to solving the mystery. For 6 years, the Restall family lived a rustic life on the island, conducting their own low-tech but methodical search. Then, on August 17, 1965, tragedy struck. While investigating a shaft, Robert Restall was overcome by hydrogen sulfide gas fumes and fell to the bottom. His son Bobby immediately went down to save him and was also overcome. 2 workers, Carl Grazer and Cyril Hiltz, then attempted a rescue and met the same fate. 4 men died in a matter of minutes. They were the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th victims of the Oak Island curse. The prophecy now seemed chillingly close to fulfillment. The modern era of the hunt began in the late 1960s with the formation of the Triton Alliance, a syndicate that brought unprecedented funding and technology to the island. They focused their efforts on a new shaft, known as Borehole 10X, located 180 feet northeast of the original money pit. In 1971, they lowered a camera down this flooded 237-foot deep cavern. The grainy, black and white images that came back were astonishing. The camera appeared to show the murky outlines of treasure chests, human tools, and most chillingly, what looked like a severed human hand. The footage was inconclusive but electrifying. However, like all who came before them, Triton's efforts were plagued by collapses and legal disputes, and they too eventually abandoned the search, leaving Borehole 10X as another tantalizing but unsolved piece of the puzzle. Today, the hunt is led by brothers Rick and Marty Legina, whose passion for the mystery was ignited as children and who have now brought the most advanced scientific technology to bear on the island. Their multi-million-dollar effort, chronicled on the television series The Curse of Oak Island, has yielded some of the most significant discoveries in the island's history. They have used seismic testing and ground-penetrating radar to map the underground structures. They have found traces of gold in the water, old coins, and strange artifacts. In the island's swamp, they've uncovered a mysterious stone-paved road. One of their most compelling finds is a small lead cross with a composition that suggests a pre-15th century origin, adding fuel to one of the most exotic theories about the treasure's origin. So what is the treasure that has inspired such relentless, multi-generational obsession? What could be worth such an incredible expenditure of money and human life? The theories are as deep and as complex as the money pit itself.
the most romantic and oldest theory is that of pirate treasure. Was it the legendary hoard of Captain Kidd or the infamous Blackbeard? While a compelling story, most historians agree that pirates rarely buried such elaborate treasure and certainly lacked the engineering skills to construct the flood tunnels. Another
Native pause quote Sex 0.5 spirited away during the French Revolution, or perhaps a British war chest hidden during the American Revolution. These theories provide a source for the immense wealth, but don't fully explain the almost supernatural complexity of the pit's design. This leads to the most spectacular and intriguing theory of all, that the Oak Island treasure belongs to the Knights Templar. The Templars were a powerful medieval military order who, at the height of their power, were the bankers of Europe. When they were brutally suppressed by King Philip IV of France in 1307, their legendary treasure, and some believe their sacred relics like the Holy Grail or the Ark of the Covenant, vanished from history. The theory posits that a group of Templars escaped with their treasure, eventually making their way to the New World centuries before Columbus, and constructed the Money Pit as an eternal, unbreachable vault for their most sacred artifacts. This theory would explain the incredible engineering, the long-term planning, and discoveries like the pre-Columbian lead cross. Of course, there is also the skeptical view that there is no treasure at all. Geologists have pointed out that Oak Island is riddled with natural sinkholes and caverns, and that the Money Pit could simply be a natural sinkhole that has been misinterpreted by generations of hopeful treasure hunters. In this view, the oak platforms were debris that fell into the hole, the flood tunnels are natural water channels, and the entire legend is a product of wishful thinking and confirmation bias. But this theory struggles to explain the man-made artifacts, the charcoal, the putty, and the foreign coconut fibers found deep within the pit. After more than 2 centuries, the mystery of Oak Island is deeper than ever. It is a story of human obsession, a testament to the power of a legend to grip the imagination across generations. The true genius of Oak Island is not the treasure itself, but the pit. The question that lingers is not just what is buried there, but who possessed the knowledge, the resources, and the time to construct such a magnificent and deadly puzzle so long ago. The seventh man has yet to die, and the treasure, whether it be gold, relics, or simply the story itself, remains protected by its ingenious design. The hunt continues, driven by the undying human hope that the answer to one of the world's greatest mysteries is waiting just a few feet deeper.